Hello and welcome back to Wireman's Whimsy. Today I want to talk about the Twigs and Sprigs embossing folder and die. So it's one of the hybrid sets. So with the folder, it comes as a set. You get both pieces together. So you get the embossing folder and you also get the die. And you can use them together. You can put, if you open it up, wherever the Stampin' Up! Logo is up, is the right side up. So you flip it open, you pop your die in, and you'll feel it when it kind of clicks into place. And then you place your piece of paper here, close it up, run it through the machine. Whether you're using it with or without the die, you need to set it up like it's a 3D embossing folder with just your base plate. So just your base plate and your gray plate. So I wanted to show you a couple of different options with this before we get started. I'm going to build a card live on the video here just to show you how it works. So what we have here is this is just the embossing folder. So really nice, deep, detailed designs. You can use this as a background. You don't even need to cut it out. If you use it with the embossing folder and you cut it as the hybrid, it cuts it out like that. The other option is to run your piece of paper through, say we're going to use this, you run this piece of paper through just the embossing folder. Then when you take it out, you run it through separately with the die over top. And I'll show that, I'll demonstrate that in the video. Because what happens is, if you look at, say, this one, and I just take them down a little bit. If you look at the difference in depth, I don't know if you can see, this one is a lot flatter. And that's because when you put the die inside, the embossing folder can't squash down as much. So you actually get a much crisper, deeper embossing if you run it through separately. You can run it through the same. Sometimes a little bit less detail is good, especially if you are going to use it as a background. But sometimes you want that detail. So you can do it both ways. I just wanted to show you the difference. If you run it through as one piece, again, I'll show you how it goes together. And you just kind of keep wiggling it around till it kind of clicks in place. If you do it like this, you get a much flatter image. If you emboss first and then cut after you've embossed, you get a much sharper, much more defined image. So let's move on to the card. I'm just going to move all of this over to the side for now. All of this. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick card. What I've got is a basic white card base. I've got a garden green in 5 1/4 by 4. I have stamped the greeting in garden green from the Good Feelings stamp set, and I've cut it out with a stitched rectangle die. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to make it as a portrait or a landscape card. But what I am going to do is I'm going to run this through just the embossing folder. This is going to be my background piece. So I'm just going to lay that down and I'm going to run it through. So I'm going to layer that up as if it's a 3D embossing folder, and I'm going to run it through. If I wanted to cut and emboss this, I would have added the die in. But I want all of my images to be very, very deep. Like you can see how deep that is. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through the embossing folder again, but with the piece of old olive. And the reason I've got this large piece of old olive in here is if you put a 5 1/4 by 4 in, you're going to lose some of your pieces because they don't completely fit. So I'm going to run that through, and I am going to have some pieces that run off the edge, but I'll have quite a few pieces that I can use. I might actually just shimmy that up so I've got all of those pieces just like that. Again, sandwich it up like it's a 3D embossing folder and run it through. I'm going to cut this out with the die separate from the folder because I want that crisp line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, put my folder aside. I'm going to put my base plate, my regular cutting plates, my shim, and then my cutting plate. Just move everything out of the way so I'm actually in frame here. I feel like I'm very disorganized again. So what I need to do now is I need to put the die over top. And this just takes a minute to wiggle it so that it's correctly around all the pieces and you're not actually going to cut anything off. So then what I've done, or what I did, is I just used sticky notes to hold the die in place, sandwich it up. Again, this is now going through as if it's a regular die that you're using. I'm not using the 3D embossing folder. Now, if you were to put the die inside the folder and cut it all at once, you would still use the 3D folder. But if you're cutting it as a separate unit, then you can run it through with the regular cutting mats or cutting plates. So I'm just going to peel this off now. And I've got all of those images. I'm just going to kind of lay them out because what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to tuck them in on the card. So I'm just going to lay all those out and get that out of the way. Okay, let's bring the card in. So I'm going to flat mount the embossed background, the 5 1/4 by 4 embossed background. I'm going to run adhesive around the edges instead of just 3 strips across because some of the edges are bumpy. Okay, so I'm just going to line that up like I normally would, drop it down, and there we go. So now I need to decide if I want to do it this way or if I want to do it this way. And I almost think I'd like to do it this way. And then I'm going to tuck these other pieces in around the edge. And see, this one got cut off, but I can slide that under like that. And this one got cut off a little bit too. So I'm going to see if I can cheat this one a little bit and just round this edge off so it doesn't look quite so abrupt. There we go. So there, you'd never even know that it was cut off at the edge there. So popping all of these in like this. You don't have to use all of them. You can use what you like. And you still get the depth underneath, but you get all of the pieces here. So let's just start building this. You get the idea. I'm going to get my dimensionals out. And as you can see, paper has 2 sides. So I used both of them. And I'm just going to put that like that. And then I need to decide how I'm going to build this. I'm still kind of half a mind to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way, I think. So there we go, changing the mind on the fly. And then I'm going to tuck these pieces in like this. They're going to overflow a little bit. And I'm going to flat mount them. So I'm just going to add adhesive on. If it doesn't extend the card, you can overlap it a little bit. But I don't want to actually extend the card on this one. So let's add that one there. And again, not planned at all. I am just completely winging this one. So let's pop this one in here. And this one I will overlap a bit. So I'm going to put a dimensional on the top of this one here. And I'm going to tuck it underneath. So it just adds a level of kind of depth to it. Now this one I can tuck over top as well. If you're tucking them over top, you need to put a dimensional on because the greeting was dimensionalized. Otherwise, it will just sit funny. So this one is going to sit like that, and it's just a little bit proud there. So I can tuck this one in. Can I fit this one in on the side here like this? It looks a bit funny, so maybe we'll leave that one out for now. I can put this one in, and this is another good one that can overlap. So let's do that with a dimensional. And as usual, you can do this with any kind of color reference, color story that you want. And however you want to use the pieces, whatever makes you happy, you just go ahead and do. I think this would make a great masculine card. You could use one of the larger happy birthday greetings on it if you wanted to. And I'm just going to offset that a bit like that. Now, can I fit this large one in? Oh, look at that. That one will go perfectly right there. So let's put a dimensional here. And we'll tuck that right in like that. There we go. And then I can pop this one in here like this, except that's running right up against the dimensional that's underneath. So I am going to cheat a little bit and snip that off. It'll be underneath, so no one will know the difference. You will, because you've seen it in the video, but there we go. So we do have a bit of a spot up here where there was nothing overlapping. So we can add that piece there, or we can leave the white space, or we can take some iridescent pearl jewels that I have colored with the dark old olive. Oops, and we can shoot it across the room. And we can just pop these. You can put them all around. Yeah, these are just determined to shoot everywhere. Or you can pop them all up in the top corner here, just like that. So there we go. We've got a quick card made with the Twigs and Sprigs folder and die, with the greeting from Good Feelings. So hopefully this video has helped you, and it's helped you explore the Twigs and Sprigs folder, because it's kind of hidden in the catalog and doesn't really do itself justice in the catalog. But I really like it, and I hope you will too. So let's create together again soon.